Okay, teardown day number 1. Let's get it started.
Before we actually begin tearing down this Sportsman chassis, I wanted to share my personal history with the car and why it's such a cool project for me. If you go back and look at another video we did on the on-track history of this car, you'll notice that Billy Crawford campaigned this car in 1990 as a black number 1C. In 1990, Billy Crawford was my favorite race car driver and my first racing hero. It's pretty cool to have your hero's race car. After the 1990 season, Crawford sold the car to John Murphy as the Crawford team moved on to the 410 Sprint Car division. As Murphy spent the next 5 seasons campaigning it as his own number 36, my history picks up with this car Labor Day weekend 1995. Normally my father and I would go to Silver Spring Speedway on Saturday nights, but that weekend we had plans and chose to go to Williams Grove on Friday night instead. It's weird how you remember certain things from when you're a child, and on our way home from the racetrack that night, I remember my father making a big deal about how experience succeeded over youth that night as Donnie Kreitz won the 410 feature and John Murphy won the Super Sportsman feature, both veterans in their respective divisions. As far as a project like this goes, it's pretty cool that I can remember this LPS chassis at the beginning of its racing career and also at the end of its racing career. That nostalgia is certainly a huge reason why I purchased this car from John Murphy in the first place. When I saw it, it brought back all those memories of going to the racetrack with my father as a child. Through this restoration, I'm hoping that I can share those memories and experiences with others, including my own children. Okay, time to start tearing this thing apart. No better place to begin than with taking the body off. This is certainly going to be one of the bigger challenges in doing this restoration. We plan on repairing all the cracks in the fiberglass nose and hood so we can use the original body panels. There's also some damage to some of the metal panels that will need repaired as well before everything gets repainted and re-lettered. One of the cool things about this project is that the car has sat largely untouched since it last came off the racetrack in 1995. Although some things throughout that 1995 season changed. As you can notice, the painted panels on the left-hand side of the car versus the unpainted panels on the right-hand side of the car. We're going to go back and paint the right-hand panels so they match the photographic evidence from victory lane shots. Next up is removing the radiator. I actually had to put the radiator back in so I could take photos on how the mounting hardware worked in conjunction with the car, so we know how to put it back together after everything's redone. Next on the list is removing the steering gear. Now, one of the unique things about Super Sportsman is they did not run power steering, so it's a manual steering box. I can promise you, after sitting for 27 years, the nuts and bolts that held the steering gear in were not very friendly in coming back apart. On to removing the tail tank. Now, this tail tank is painted completely white and is one of the gaps that we have in some of our photo evidence. I'm still looking for some really good photos of the tail tank, so when we re-letter it, we can be spot on with how it was lettered in the past. We did leak test the tail tank, and there are no leaks. The bladder's good, so this will be reused in our restoration. Now we move on to taking the rear end out. Of course, I forgot to take the shifter cable off, which is something I had to go back and fix. We're going to send this rear out to get rebuilt just to make sure everything's good before we put it back together. No sense in trying to run 30-year-old parts without a good once-over. One of the really cool things we found in doing the teardown was the rear bars were marked with the date of 7/8/95. 925 bar on the left rear. And a 1,000-pound bar on the right rear. Pretty cool that they still have the dates on them. The rest of the teardown is removing the motor plates, firewall, and seat. This bar is the one thing that is going to get replaced at the chassis shop. Everything else is going to stay because it adds character to the car. Continue to follow along on our YouTube channel for more updates on the restoration. Please like this video and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.